Imagine that the history of humanity that you were told is only an edited version, a sanitized summary to hide a truth so disruptive that it would change our position in the cosmos. For most, civilization began gradually, a slow evolution from hunter-gatherers to farmers. But Earth's oldest records tell a radically different story. In 1849, the archaeologist Sir Austen Henry Layard unearthed in ancient Nineveh what we now know as the Library of Ashurbanipal. Among the rubble were 14 clay tablets over 4,000 years old. These texts, known as the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish, were not just poems. They were detailed records of an era in which gods walked among men. But here is the turning point. These tablets describe the creation of man as an engineering project, dating back 450,000 years ago. We are talking about the Anunnaki. We treat this as an investigation of patterns. Why is the story of the biblical Genesis almost a carbon copy of these Sumerian texts written millennia before? And why do high-credibility figures in the world of modern ufology, such as the engineer Bob Lazar, claim to have had access to secret documents that describe human beings not as the peak of evolution, but as genetic containers created by an external intelligence? Lazar, the man who revealed Area 51 to the world, mentioned a yellow book, a historical guide left by non-human entities that describes 65 genetic interventions in our lineage.
Yeah, the only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that thick. Period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it.
Far out.
All right, your objection has been noted.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document. That religion was specifically created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
The souls? Meaning?
Well, the souls or the bodies, whatever. That's
meaning like we're containers for souls that they're going to use at some other point.
Right.
And that they had something to do with different prophets and biblical figures.
Yes. That supposedly Jesus and two other beings were genetically engineered. They were implanted in people on Earth in biblical times, and their births were closely monitored. Now, just some little connections to that my wife had brought up were the star had followed Mary wherever she went, and that all UFO sightings always start out as people, well, gee, that looks like a bright star, and well, in fact, they said in the Bible, the brightest star in the sky followed her where she went, and just make little connections like that.
If this sounds like science fiction to you, look at your own body. Modern science still cannot explain the missing link, more specifically, the fusion of human chromosome 2. While all other primates have 24 pairs of chromosomes, we have 23. 2 of our chromosomes were fused so precisely that it seems to have been the work of a laboratory rather than a natural accident. This design error occurred hundreds of thousands of years ago, exactly the period in which the Sumerian tablets say the Anunnaki began their experiment here. Today, we are going to dive into the abyss of this narrative. We will investigate how a primitive civilization knew the exact location of planets that we only discovered with modern telescopes, the science behind the desperate search for gold, and the master plan of a race that may be about to return. What is engraved on those 4,000-year-old stones is not a myth. It is the instruction manual of our existence. Welcome to the truth that is kept on the inside. To understand the mission of the Anunnaki on Earth, we have to look up. The Sumerians claimed that these beings were not spirits or ghosts, but physical travelers from a world called Nibiru. According to the texts, Nibiru is a massive planet with an eccentric and extremely elongated orbit, which takes it into the depths of deep space before bringing it back to the inner solar system every 3,600 years. This cycle was called a shar. For a long time, scholars ridiculed this idea. After all, how could a planet exist so far away without us seeing it? The answer began to emerge recently, not in ancient temples, but in elite universities like Caltech. In 2016, astronomers Michael Brown and Konstantin Batygin published mathematical evidence for the existence of Planet 9. They observed extreme gravitational anomalies in the Kuiper Belt, objects moving as if pushed by an invisible giant with 10 times the mass of Earth. This object has exactly the same orbit described in the Sumerian tablets, an elliptical path that takes thousands of years to complete. But how did the Sumerians, 6,000 years ago, know this without computers or telescopes? The most compelling proof of this impossible astronomy is the cylinder-sealed A/243 kept in the Berlin Museum. In it, the Sumerians drew the sun at the center, proving they knew the heliocentric system millennia before Copernicus, and surrounded it with 11 spheres. If we count the sun and the moon, they listed all the planets we know today, including Pluto, which our modern science only discovered in 1930. And there was one extra sphere, Nibiru. The text explained that living conditions on Nibiru began to deteriorate as its atmosphere dissipated during its long journey away from the sun. They needed a technological solution to protect their world. This is where the narrative becomes fascinating from a technical standpoint. The Anunnaki sought gold, not for its beauty or monetary value, but for its physical properties. In modern engineering, gold is the ultimate material for space exploration. The James Webb Telescope uses gold-coated mirrors to reflect infrared radiation. NASA spacesuits have gold-plated visors to protect astronauts from solar radiation. According to Zecharia Sitchin's translations and the original texts, the Anunnaki planned to spray gold particles into their atmosphere to create a thermal shield. Earth, rich in this mineral, became the primary target. Arrival on Earth, led by the scientist Prince Enki, established the first operational base, Eridu, in the Persian Gulf. The goal was to extract gold from ocean waters and later from mines in Southeast Africa. But the logistics of extracting resources from an entire planet required a massive workforce. And this is where the conflict began. With them, the Anunnaki brought a subordinate race of beings known as the Igigi. For 250,000 years, these beings were the slaves of the gods, working under the brutal conditions of primitive Earth. But the patience of the Igigi had a limit, and when they revolted, the Anunnaki found themselves forced to make a decision that would alter the fate of life on Earth forever: the creation of a substitute intelligent enough to work, but docile enough to obey. Commander, maintaining the level of density and the weight of evidence from previous acts, let us now enter the most sensitive and fascinating part of the investigation: the biology of our creation and the ideological war that nearly extinguished us. The narrative of the Sumerian tablets reaches its most critical point when describing Enki's solution to the Igigi revolt. Instead of simply importing new slaves from Nibiru, Enki, described as a master scientist, proposed something audacious: to create a primitive worker who could carry the burden of exhaustive labor. But the texts are clear. He did not create life from nothing. He took a species that already existed on Earth and implanted in it the image of the gods. Today, science calls this species Homo erectus. The process described in the tablets involves mixing the essence of the Anunnaki with the blood of terrestrial beings. To a reader from 4,000 years ago, this seemed like magic. To us in the 21st century, it sounds exactly like genetic engineering, and this is where biological evidence begins to corroborate the Sumerian text in a terrifying way. If you analyze the human family tree, you will notice a sudden and inexplicable leap about 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Homo sapiens emerged with a brain 50% larger and language capabilities that defy Darwin's slow evolution. This is the famous missing link. The most concrete proof is hidden in our genome. As mentioned at the beginning, all great primates possess 24 pairs of chromosomes. We humans possess only 23. For decades, this was a mystery until scientists discovered that our chromosome 2 is, in fact, the result of the fusion of two ancestral chromosomes. But it was not a natural or random fusion. It possesses telomere sequences in the center, something that should not be there if it had occurred through conventional evolution. It is a technological signature. This brings us back to the testimony of Bob Lazar. When he described the secret documents at Area 51, he emphasized that beings from the outside saw us as genetic containers.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the documents.
Lazar claimed the documents described humanity as the product of 65 distinct genetic corrections over millennia. The first of these experiments is what the Sumerians call the Adamu. In Hebrew, the word Adam means man, but its root Adamu means of the red earth or blood. In the tablets, the Adamu was the first functional hybrid, created after several failed attempts that resulted in deformed beings, which would explain many of the strange creatures described in ancient mythologies. The project was a success. The new humans were intelligent enough to operate tools, understand orders, and maintain the gold mines, but genetically limited so as not to possess the longevity of their creators. We were destined to be a race of servants. However, something unexpected happened. Enki, our biological creator, began to develop an affection for his creation. And this affection would trigger the greatest civil war in the history of our solar system. As the human population grew, the separation between creators and creatures began to disappear. The tablets narrate that some Anunnaki, known in later biblical texts as the Watchers, found the daughters of men attractive and began to procreate with them. The result of this hybrid union were the Nephilim, or giants. These beings possessed the strength of the Anunnaki and the emotional nature of humans, becoming kings and heroes of renown, but also sources of great chaos. Although conventional archaeology tries to hide it, there are hundreds of newspaper reports from the 19th century, including the New York Times, describing the discovery of human skeletons 3 to 4 meters tall in tombs around the world, especially near megalithic sites. These were the byproducts of a genetic experiment that was spiraling out of control. And this infuriated Enlil, Enki's brother, and the supreme commander of Mission Earth. Enlil viewed humanity not as a miraculous creation, but as an annoying biological error. To him, we were noisy, numerous, and a threat to the order of Nibiru. While Enki was the compassionate scientist who wanted to educate humans, the archetype that would later become the Greek Prometheus, Enlil was the pragmatic military man who wanted extermination. The conflict between the two brothers defines the entire geopolitical structure of antiquity. Enlil imposed harsh laws and limited human access to knowledge and technology. The breaking point occurred when Anunnaki's astronomical calculations revealed an imminent catastrophe. Nibiru was approaching Earth's orbit again. The immense gravitational pull of a planet that size would cause a shift in the Earth's crust, melting the ice caps and triggering a global flood. In a secret council, Enlil saw this as the perfect opportunity. He ordered the Anunnaki not to warn the humans. He wanted the deluge to wipe the human infestation from the face of the Earth so they could start from scratch after the planet's passage. Enki, however, could not stand by. He broke his oath of secrecy. Instead of speaking directly to a human, which was forbidden, he spoke through a reed wall to his disciple Zusudra, the Sumerian Noah, instructing him to build a boat capable of preserving the DNA of all species and the seed of humanity. What the tablets describe is not a primitive wooden boat, but a technologically sealed submersible. Modern science today confirms that there was a drastic and catastrophic rise in sea level about 12,000 years ago, coinciding with the end of the last ice age. The geological evidence is there. The event we call myth was, in fact, a management decision by an extraterrestrial race deciding who should live and who should die. After the waters of the deluge receded, Earth was a cemetery of mud and silence. But the Anunnaki, who observed the destruction from their celestial ships in Earth's orbit, described in the texts as shining boats circling the planet, decided to return. The problem was that the original mining infrastructure, such as the city of Eridu, had been swept away. They needed to rebuild, and they needed new command centers. This is where the Sumerian narrative clashes head-on with the greatest mysteries of modern archaeology, the megalithic constructions. The tablets describe that the Anunnaki divided the earth into 4 main regions for their sons and generals. One of these regions was Egypt, given to Ningish-Zeta, who many identify as the god Thoth. What conventional archaeology calls tombs of pharaohs, the tablets and physical evidence suggest are something much more technical. Look at the Great Pyramid. It contains no original hieroglyphs, no mummies, no treasures. What it does contain is a mathematical precision that aligns the monument with the stars of Orion and magnetic north, with an error margin of almost 0. How could a civilization that had just emerged from a global flood cut, transport, and stack 2.3 million stone blocks with such precision? The most absurd evidence is in Baalbek, Lebanon. There, we find the trilithon, 3 stone blocks weighing over 800 tons each, set 6 meters high on a temple base. No modern crane can maneuver these stones with the ease described in the Sumerian records. The texts claim these sites were landing ports or communication centers. The cutting technique is so advanced that not even a razor blade fits between the blocks. For its safe inside, the pattern is clear. This was not the work of bronze tools and hemp ropes. It was a technology-assisted reconstruction by a race that possessed mastery over frequency and gravity. As the Anunnaki helped rebuild civilization, they instituted what we call kingship. They selected hybrid humans, those with a higher percentage of Anunnaki DNA, to act as intermediaries. The famous Sumerian king list, carved in stone, lists sovereigns who reigned for absurd periods, such as 28,000 years before the flood, and shorter periods after it. This corroborates the idea that the longevity of these beings was biological, and that they passed the divine right to rule to specific lineages. We were moving from being direct slaves in the mines to becoming subjects of an organized system of control. The question that has echoed for millennia is, if the Anunnaki were physical and technological beings, where did they go? Some theories suggest they departed when Nibiru moved away again in its 3,600-year orbit. Others suggest they never left, just retreated into the shadows, leaving the control system running on autopilot through the elites they established. Observe the pattern. Throughout all documented history, power has never been distributed. It has always been concentrated in bloodlines. From Egyptian dynasties to Roman emperors, from European monarchies to the financial titans of today, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Many researchers point out that these families maintain obsessive genealogical records that trace back to these first hybrid kings of Sumer. It is the concept of blue blood, a possible reference to the copper-based blood color that some theorists suggest the Anunnaki possessed. Visuals showing a pyramid-shaped hierarchy of power from ancient Sumer to modern banking. But the most frightening evidence is not in the blood, but in the model of society. The Anunnaki created human beings to be workers, resource collectors. If we look at the world today, what has really changed? The physical gold mining system has been replaced by human energy mining. The global financial system, based on debt and interest, is designed to keep the vast majority of the population in a state of perpetual labor, generating wealth for an elite that remains invisible and untouchable. The peasant of Mesopotamia just swapped the hoe for a time card and an Excel spreadsheet. The master-slave structure is still the source code of our civilization. This brings us back to the starting point. If what is in the 14 tablets is true, we are not an accident of nature. We are a project. And if we are a project, who holds our ownership? The recent revelation of UFOs and unidentified anomalous phenomena by the Pentagon could be the sign that the 3,600-year cycle is closing. Are our creators returning to check the status of their experiment? Or is it that they never left, and we are just starting to see the bars of the cage? The truth about the Anunnaki is not just about the past. It is about our immediate future. Archaeology, Bob Lazar's genetics, and NASA's anomalies point in the same direction. We are not alone, and we never have been. If you want to understand what is to come, you need to stop looking at history as a straight line and start seeing it as a cycle. What would you do if you discovered that your freedom is only a temporary permission granted by your owners? Leave your theory in the comments. Do you believe we are a genetic experiment, or that the Sumerians were just writing fiction with impossible precision? I am It's Safe Inside, and remember, the truth may be uncomfortable, but it is the only thing that truly sets us free. See you in the next investigation.